Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for today's presentation on what digital natives need from EDU video. Before I turn things over to our presenters, I just have a few housekeeping items I want to run through with you. Just a reminder, we do send out webinar recap emails. The session will be recorded and we'll send that directly to your inbox within the next 24 to 48 hours. Typically, we reserve time for questions at the end, but we do have our team monitoring the hashtag Converge Presents on Twitter. So please feel free during the presentation at any time to tweet us at Converge.org or to list your questions in the questions box through GoToWebinar, and we'll respond to those throughout the presentation. I'm really excited to introduce to you today our VP of Digital Strategy, Haley Warwick, our brand strategist, Melissa Chua, and our agency partner from Google, Becky Bush. They're here to present on video storytelling best practices. Melissa comes from a background in video storytelling, and Haley leads our digital strategy team here at Converge.
So we're super excited to share this content with you today. We all know that our target audience is consuming video, but how do we produce and utilize video in the most meaningful way? So we're going to start off by going through what Google knows. So obviously we know YouTube is the second largest search engine and is a huge video publisher. So we're going to get some great insights from Becky on the trends that Google is seeing through YouTube. Next we'll move into storytelling. We all know we need video, but how do we produce content and video in a meaningful way that engages our audience? And then video campaigns. So beyond just posting video on your website or your social channels, we know that we want to reach a larger audience. So how do we leverage advertising to push out video further? And then we'll end with some resources. We have a lot of examples we're going to share throughout today's presentation, but also talking about what's new and next in video and advantages every institution should be taking advantage of. So as a marketer in EDU, we know that we're trying to convey a certain message to our target audience, but we also know that there's certain things students want to see. Melissa and I have been traveling a lot lately to different campuses, California, Idaho. We were just in Baltimore on Monday. Yep. And we've been talking a lot with students to get their obviously to learn more about why they chose the institution that they chose, but also to get a better idea of what type of content they're engaging with. And over we've heard students love video. They want that to be part of their recruitment process, part of their student experience. So I think this webinar comes at a great time. We're super excited to share trends that we're seeing, as well as ideas we have on video production and promotion. So we'll kick it off to Becky, who's going to share some insights from YouTube. Again, Becky is our partner at Google and has been instrumental with helping us develop strategies for video promotion with our clients.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for taking the time to join today. I'm so excited to chat a little bit more about YouTube and how that ties into your strategy as education marketers. So Google recently came out with a really interesting report about Gen Z and the amount of time they actually spend consuming video on their phones. We found that 71% of teens say they watch more than 3 hours of video a day on their mobile phones. This is so important for education because these are the people that you are marketing to. Over 50% of teens actually say they use their mobile to make online purchases or decisions, and they even say that mobile video can influence their perception of what is quote-unquote cool. Content that was once made by large movie studios like the picture you see on the left are now made by innovators like this man, Casey, who has over 7 million subscribers to his YouTube channel. We can now fit a TV, a telephone, or a computer, or a clock in our pocket with a single handheld device and experience the world in infinite ways, as you see from the kids using a $15 Google Cardboard on the right side of the screen. It used to be that reach was scarce and attention was plentiful, right? We all remember this scene of people sitting around one TV together in a living room, hooked. In today's reality, reach is plentiful because all of us are consuming all the time, but attention has gotten really scarce. And we know that as marketers, this makes your job really, really challenging. As marketers, you're being pulled in so many different directions, and we know you're facing a multitude of issues, from ad blockers to data privacy, attribution, fragmentation, the list goes on. So here are the facts. How many here watch TV on demand? And how many even watch commercials? Even if your remote fell off the couch and you couldn't reach it, would you still sit on your phone and not watch the commercials? You'd probably grab your phone and do something else until the show came back on. YouTube has over 1 billion users, and we find that we just crossed a new milestone where people are watching over 1 billion hours of content every day. So let's put that in perspective. If you were to sit here and watch 1 billion hours of YouTube, it would take you over 100,000 years. 100,000 years ago, our ancestors were crafting stone tools and migrating out of Africa. So the reason why this stat is so relevant and so important for you is because it makes your job really easy as marketers. It proves that your audience is on YouTube and they could be in the right mindset and the right moment to be really receptive to your school and your brand. With that, I'm going to pass it back to the Converge team.
Hi, this is Melissa Chua, and now that Becky has given such a great introduction on YouTube and why it's important for EDU, I'm going to talk about what makes a good story in EDU, why video, and why right now. And that's that video is a great way for prospective students to engage with your brand. Specifically, 4 out of 5 admitted college students watched a video during their college search. That's a lot. And in general, actually 42% of online shoppers use video for pre-purchase research. And in fact, 64% use YouTube to find products, which makes it the #1 social platform in introducing new products to the marketplace. Specifically related to your admissions goals. So as Haley mentioned earlier, a lot of our campus visits recently have been centered around trying to tie video and social directly to your admissions and your enrollment. So basically, more than half of all admitted students or college admitted students have used social media expressly for the college search. 55% have used Facebook to review school backgrounds, 31% use hashtags to search for specific info about colleges, and more than 30% use Instagram and Twitter. So that's a lot of opportunity for your schools. And before we go any further, as Megan mentioned, we'll be going through a variety of video examples that specifically connect video social with admissions, but we won't actually play the videos. You'll get the PowerPoint recording of this webinar and all the lists of the featured video content in your inboxes after the event. So the first video that we want to go through is via Northwestern University's Segal Institute of Design. They did a really great video, only 3,000 views, but it was because it was targeted specifically to parents of prospective students. So the Segal Design Institute produced a very eye-catching sequence that drew audiences into rapid glimpses of life as a design student. They do a good job of dwelling on bolding what's important. One of Segal Institute's main messages on their website is the idea of human-centered design, and so this video begins with the end in mind and is very human-centered in its approach without explicitly pulling off that brand pillar. So this type of video, again, works good with parents, but we're here to actually talk about what Gen Z is looking for. I know a lot of the attendees today have been from undergraduate institutions, so let's dive right in. So the first morsel that we have here for Gen Z audiences, after doing an analysis of many different videos, is that in video production, you should be choosing quality over quality. And And what that means is you should be choosing the quality of your content over the quality of the actual video. And let me tell you why. The single biggest assumption that schools make is that they need to invest in some sort of expensive agency to produce good videos. This is simply not true, but let's define what good is. In our opinion, good videos tell a story directly to a distinct audience and receive buzz from that audience. Whether it was shot on a Red Dragon or your student's DSLR or webcam or even an iPhone is not going to make or break how your video performs, as long as your content is relevant to your intended audience and resonates with them. When I worked for the University of Illinois as a young videographer, I was once pulled into our contracted video agency's very fancy office and told that I was stealing business from them by making too many in-house videos. My first reaction was shock, obviously, but my second reaction was validation that I was doing something good and bringing in content from students that students actually wanted to see. So later on, obviously, we'll talk about how to choose that right partner for those efforts. But my point is your core content creators, so for your student life stories, for example, are ideally people who directly relate to your subjects and have their boots on the ground every single day. Videography, editing, and other technology can be learned quickly on the job if you hire smart people. But the quality of storytelling takes a very special person and comes with knowing your audience's heart. So let's take a look at an example of what Gen Z decides is very popular content. This girl, Yes Renault, she has many subscribers on YouTube. She's this girl, you know, who just got into Harvard, and she's kind of like really flamboyant. She rambles on for a really long time, and her videos aren't actually that great, but she's very popular. Why is she popular? Well, she knows exactly what Gen Z is looking for in terms of trying to get into college and into their right fit colleges. Not just in their academic careers, but also like what kind of student life are they looking for. So if you see on the like lower right-hand side, you'll see that there's some content. Yes Renault uses like her video or YouTube description to put in all of the information basically a Gen Z prospective student needs to know before getting into the top schools. Like SAT scores, like how to write a personal essay, what time you should do that, what people should you be following up with. All of this content is what's relevant and what is something that Gen Z is looking for, not necessarily campus beauty shots or anything like that, but really practically how to get into school. And then also not just about how to get into school, but as you look at the upper right-hand corner, Yes Renault has this video that's like, Harvard is not heaven. So, and it's actually only been there since for like a month and already has like over 100,000 views. Basically, students want to know like the nitty-gritty of what's going to happen after they get into a school, right? Will they fit in, well, academically and socially, and how to navigate that. So that is like an example of really relevant content that you could think about plugging into your own social and video strategies to make sure that you're reaching the right audience, especially if you're trying to attract prospective students. Another example that has been really resonant with Gen Z is this idea of like student life. So as much student life example that you can try to extract and bring to your audience, you'll be able to bring those admitted students and prevent melt at your institutions. So University of Southern California, private institution, obviously in Southern California, created USC dorms, and it was an MTV Cribs-like series that encouraged prospects to vote for their favorite like dorms, right? So this really kind of gave them this idea and excitement of what they can expect when they go into college, who they're going to be living with, how they can decorate their rooms. It seems like fluff, and it is, some of it, but it also created and generated this excitement for admitted students and was a very successful campaign for USC. The next example that I want to show you is a blogger that's not as famous. I mean, she has like 18,000 subscribers, Kath in college, but actually she's become like quite a personality in the vlogging space. She goes to Stanford University, right? And although it's not, the stuff that she shows on YouTube is not necessarily what you might want to promote for your school's brand, especially with regard to student life. The thing that's really striking about her YouTube channel is that she is not bashful about who she is as a person, right? And I think that's the thing about Gen Z people. Like they work hard and they understand their values and their talents and not necessarily their image. But next we're going to talk about how you can avoid taking a steep dive into your brand dilution by different bloggers, especially student life bloggers, and how you can engage bloggers as partners for you. So I guess the second lesson here is like to control your narrative, right? So you know that a lot of content is being generated every single day on YouTube, both your university generating it or your students. But if you can find a way to identify and partner with the right brand ambassadors and bloggers within your campus community, you can steer your campaigns in a very controlled manner without diluting your brand. So look towards student journalists, look toward like different people from your like College of Communications that are aspiring to be PR experts or marketers. Even look into your graphic design school so that you can find and partner with the right brand ambassadors and students that will really strengthen your brand and still feel very, very in touch with your community. And a good example of this, of controlling narrative, is actually from like a Christian student group from Boston College. It's called C21. Anyway, they created, or they were able to create a community of students from seemingly nowhere and I think this is a pretty old video. I think it's from 2014. But it's of like Taylor Swift's Shake It Off. And so they went all over campus and they had like, even like the campus minister and like a bunch of students everywhere just like dancing to Shake It Off. And it was kind of a cool way to create a community, especially to recruit students in Boston College for that sort of effort. It was just like a great example of that. But if you wanted to spearhead something like that, campus units involved in displaying how fun your students are, it's kind of like a cool way to do it. Okay, so lesson here. At the end of the day, right, be authentic. I guess it's pretty easy to swallow, right? Show real life, show real people, and show real conversations in your campus videos. So students of today are educated consumers and slow to trust brands, right? They want to know that they can relate to you. So show them some life. Give them people like themselves. Realize the best and brightest students also have diverse interests and are equally as interested in academics as they are in student life, daring experiences, partying. Show off your dean or chancellor, or showing off your dean or chancellor reading off a carefully scripted narrative may not always be the best way to reach Gen Z students. And contrary to popular belief, the best stories in life grow organically. So the best practice for video is to produce a blend of lively interviews and sparingly scripted narrative. And we'll talk about that later as we start your video journey. So one way Crimson Education actually has targeted high school students. So Crimson Education is actually an education consultancy that focuses on getting high school students to colleges. But one thing that they do really well in their video strategy is picking students that they've mentored into the college situation and following them. So like this girl on the screen, she went to New York University and is a great example of just a video. It's not necessarily the most well cut, but it shows a day in the life of like what it's like to like live on the NYU campus, go to class, see your professors, and it's like wildly popular, right? And as you can see, like on the side, if you go toward the info, you see like a lot of their other student profiles are very well highlighted, like a day in the life of a USC grad or a day in the life in Yale, and it's very specifically targeted toward your prospective students. So if you partner with institutions like them, or the right student ambassador that you can follow around campus and get a very authentic experience from them, you can really reach the audience that you're targeting. And that leads right into the most successful videos, actually still pretty succinct, right? So no matter what you do and you're creating video, you want to equate your video to your elevator pitch. So always understand the outcomes that you want to get achieved and make sure that you have what you need to get you there and in as short amount of time as possible. I mean, I think Gen Z students want to see people like them in the videos, and it's okay if they're like an hour long, but they're even more effective if they're shorter, basically. And the University of Illinois did a very good example of this in their College of Business. Well, and I worked on them too, but they were always videos that are like 1 to 3 minutes long, but they try to show as much life as possible and many facets of life within the College of Business. I mean, these aren't just like people geeking out in like the, I don't know, market labs. They're like in sororities, they're in fraternities, they're like in football games, they're in business fraternities, they're networking with alumni, they're doing so many great things, and to show and doing real world consulting, global consulting experiences. So having all of that and fitting as many faces as you can and as many facets of life in like one video as possible is a very good thing and is able to like capture your prospective audience as well as engage alumni, which is always the goal, right? You want to have alumni that can tell your story over and over and over again, like an ever-giving gift. And by kind of bringing them back into the nostalgia of college, you can be very successful in your video campaigns. Another lesson that's very important, though, as we're going through all of our video examples, is that like the number of views is not always the sole benchmark for success, right? You got to know like who your target audience is and if you're even reaching them effectively. And in fact, there are a variety of tools and technologies and benchmarks out there other than views that you can use to get there. So actually, Becky from Google can talk a little bit more about the tools you can use on YouTube.
Thanks. So I think it's just so important to know when we're thinking about what is successful when you're creating a video and then advertising that video, to know that views, as the Converge team said, are not everything. And in that, know that there are so many different ways that you can measure the success of your video that go beyond just video completion rate or click-through rate. Google actually has a variety of products that allow you to measure what we call brand recall. So if people actually recognize the name of your brand better, the name of your school better, as a result of seeing your video ad. You can also see if there's an increase in Google searches as a result of seeing your video ad. So there's so many different ways that you can measure, and we just wanted to call that out here so you all can have a really great understanding that views are not the only benchmark and that there's so many ways to show the success of your video.
Great, thanks, Becky. And one great example of this actually is Northwest Nazarene University. Haley and I were actually on their campus last week, met with their videographer, really cool guy. But this video only has like 475 views, but basically it's a video series that follows admitted students and current students through their lives at NNU and how their careers have been able to be developed over time. So this guy specifically in this video, he came in as like an undecided major, just kind of walking around campus not knowing what his purpose in life was, but really showed that NNU professors and guidance counselors really cared about his personal and professional growth, and he ends up choosing graphic design as a career and loving it, right? So it's like those like transformational stories that are like super important and super resonant, I think, for students who are unsure about what college to choose and unsure about their futures. So just hearing from students themselves and from those individuals is a very, very powerful thing. Oh, and one more note actually that I want to make on NNU that I didn't make before was that the student life videos are also actually apparently very useful for students that are on a global campus, for example, so like in online programs or currently studying abroad, but still want to feel very much connected to their home campus. And it's kind of like a way to like relieve homesickness, I guess, for some of these students who might not be on campus every day. So being able to, you know, get your most popular students or your most useful students on camera talking about their experiences is a way for you to connect with your students who are abroad or on global campuses pretty constantly and start that dialogue. My final, I guess, morsel or lesson for you is that don't just do video because everybody else is doing it. I think it's a very easy thing in education to just jump onto the next bandwagon that's very popular in industry, right? But choose to make videos based on what makes sense for your overall marketing strategy and consult your strategic campus vision. So know what your enrollment goals are and know about where you guys are moving toward. To attract and retain faculty? Is it to increase enrollment in students? Is it to actually craft your brand story? What is it, right? So know what your goal is and then pursue a strategic video plan. A good example of this is University of Michigan. And they, I mean, have such a robust social strategy and always one of our favorite examples to show. But the University of Michigan is very, I guess, precise in their strategy through alumni, right? Everybody is consistently within the University of Michigan story and family. And so they showcased one of their, so an alumnus, they actually brought him back. He's like an editor in Hollywood. And during his time at the University of Michigan, he actually covered when Jim Morrison came during the homecoming. Just like, wow, what an amazing story, right? And so this video is really worth watching. It only has 20 views because it was released yesterday. But it's really cool because it kind of shows the story of what happens when you're a student all the way until you're an adult. What does a Michigan like education, where does it take you? And that is like a very precise journey and something that you guys definitely can strive toward as undergraduate and graduate institutions. Another thing Michigan does very well in knowing what to do with video is just in general knowing what to do with their social reach, right? They have a very robust social strategy. Obviously, like 765K plus followers on Facebook, 60,000 plus subscribers on YouTube. I mean, the list goes on, and they have this like monthly recap of to centralize their social efforts and to also archive them, right? So, and another really good thing that they do on their Snapchat, right, because they're actually the second institution in the nation to institute Snapchat in their social mix. They have these like social, their Snapchat live stories that they just like pipe into landing pages as well. So it's not just that these like Facebook Live and Snapchat stories, they're not just lasting temporarily, they're being able to be accessed after the fact, whether it's a campus tour or like bring your mom on campus or like really cool initiatives. They have a way of recycling content and making it relevant over and over and over again. So with that, that concludes our video example section, and you'll see that we have this list of videos that were featured, and I would encourage you to look at every single one of them and kind of pick and choose the nuggets that you would like to use in your video and social mix. So let's talk really quickly about how to start your own video journey. And the first one is really important. It's to storyboard. And I think when I first started my career as a videographer, I hated this. I was like, no, absolutely not. I wanted to just grow stories organically. But in fact, storyboarding is really important because you do it mainly to set goals and expectations, right? Especially for footage that you might use over and over again. But you need to define your audiences. You need to visualize your shots. And most importantly, you need to gain buy-in for your ideas not only so the video can be produced in your department, but so that it will actually be promoted and distributed throughout your entire campus, right? So that's the first thing. Secondly, why you should storyboard, get to know the equipment and the shots and the talent that you need to get your video accomplished. So instead of being, running around with chickens without heads, you're at least going to be able to have a very sound strategy of how to move a story forward. Secondly, in terms of your video journey, it's important to involve local talent. And going back to the internal stakeholders thing, if you have a concrete video strategy and specifically one video that speaks to your brand story, you want to make sure that that has as many internal and external stakeholders and features internal and external stakeholders as possible, as many as possible. And that's so, again, you can receive buy-in for your video webisode journey. But I think you can also find the best stories by engaging with your local community, campus, and at large. So you're going to find the best stories via popular professors, star students, student journalists, community members. And the other thing that you should be doing when you're involving local talent is getting into the local music scene and featuring young artists. This puts down your costs, so you're not like having to buy music. You're not having to go on like Free Music Archive and, I don't know, spend endless hours searching through really bad music to try to put in your video. If you just find the best artists in your area, especially since you probably have a wealth of young talent in your area, it's always a good practice. And finally, and this is not on the slide, but it's always a best practice to identify your content creators who are multi-talented and who might not have studied film, right? In terms of involving local talent in producing your videos, don't just go into your film school. Choose someone who's a graphic designer, choose someone who's a journalist, or especially choose someone who's a musician, because video is something that is created very, very holistically, and just choosing someone who specializes in film might not always be the best idea. You want a very well-rounded approach, and someone that's attuned to things like well-executed cuts, phrasing, story prioritization, etc. The third thing when starting your video journey is thinking, should you go with an agency or should you do it all in-house? And this is not something that we can necessarily answer for you, but there is a way that you can start thinking about this, right? You can start laying out some internal groundwork. So thinking about your story ideas and local subjects can definitely lower costs no matter what you choose to go with. And then engaging an agency can help smooth out major projects. So if you have like commencement coming up, or you have, star alumni coming in campus and you don't want to mess it up, it's always good to have an agency partner that can kind of come in for those projects. But know that a talented in-house staff, and particularly a strong student staff, can produce great results as well, and great video vignettes for social. And specifically, engaging students allows you to have those eyes and ears and boots on the ground at all times, getting the best story. And also, in starting your video journey, make sure to film consciously. Be judicious. Only film what is necessary and what needs to be remembered. And this is always a fight, right? You will always have a lot of stakeholders saying that they want competing messages all in one video, and you can be sitting in a room just dying. Don't die, though. Like, wake up. Know exactly the story and the themes that you want to portray, and create a plan for it. Take control of the situation, and I promise you will have a much better result after that. Secondly, if a bunch of your stakeholders are asking you to film an entire event, don't run away, just gently suggest an alternative. So say, hey, instead of filming this entire presentation, let's just have the speaker come in for an interview and splice it up into something that's bite-sized, for example. Or like, hey, yeah, I'll record the entire presentation, but only audioly, and maybe we'll just put in some PowerPoint slides in later. Or maybe schedule an abbreviated section with key takeaways after the fact. But don't ever film an entire event. Nobody ever watches that unless you're a very special, focused person. And the third thing that I want to mention is that good audio is key. Don't be caught without it. And this is the one caveat to quality over quality, is that audio is king. If you can't understand the story, it's not a good story. Don't assume people are watching videos without sound. Conversely, you can't assume people are watching with sound either. So another best practice is to boldly subtitle your videos, or at least the most important ideas with them, as much as possible. And then 2 more things to starting your video journey. The first is edit organically, okay? Free your creative juices from rigid storyboards. Even though storyboards are very important, do it yourself, go with the flow, edit what feels best. There's a lot of nuance to video that is only stifled by structure. Secondly, be transparent and set expectations for the revision process to put a cap on subjectivity. People will always say that they want something delivered better or worse, whatever. Just put a cap on it. And finally, with starting your video journey, promote and distribute. So even before you start producing random videos, always be able to orchestrate a distribution plan ready to execute when the video is complete. So that is identifying your listservs, key stakeholders, press releases, followers, etc. Have that whole plan in place, so after a video is finally done and has gone through that revision process, boom, you can launch it and it's going to generate that buzz you've always desired. Which is the last point, generate buzz and encourage subscriptions. So at this point, I'm going to pass it on to Haley, who is actually our digital and social expert, and she will talk about how to promote the videos and get them to your right audiences.
Yes, so we know video content is great for showcasing on your website, your social channels, posting on YouTube, but a lot of times you're only reaching your current audience. You want to be reaching a larger audience because you want to be drawing more interest for your programs. Specifically, we wanted to showcase some strategies with YouTube, with different social channels. So I'm going to have Becky kick it off with some insights from YouTube, and then we'll go into more examples as well.
Great, thanks guys. Super excited to chat about YouTube with you all. I think it's so important to note, going back to where people are viewing video now, that people aren't actually moving out of that traditional living room. They're just watching video in new places. So the time people spend watching YouTube in the living room actually more than doubled in 2015. And they're not just watching YouTube native content. Viewership of TV first content increased 230% since 2013. This is important for you to realize, because if you have ever advertised on TV, you can replicate this on YouTube with even better reach. So you get it, I've said it a couple times this presentation, we're living in a cross-screen world. Take a look at this image. Is it TV on YouTube or YouTube on TV? The lines are blurring and we're able to watch what we want, when we want, on a seemingly infinite number of devices on all screens and sizes. YouTube was the original distributor of online video, and in 2017 will continue to lead those innovations to drive this convergence. From living room to the living room UI to our dedicated VR app, to investing in our top creators by co-developing original content that super serves their biggest fans. You can expect YouTube to continue to be in and out. And I believe that at some point you will be able to co-create things on the VR app, which could be really cool. So the question is, what does all this change mean for marketers, and how can they take advantage of all the innovation to answer the old age questions for marketing? How do you find more students, and how do you do that at scale? That being said, I'm going to pass it back to the Converge team to talk a little bit more about what you can do to have a successful video campaign.
Yeah, so looking first at YouTube, there's a variety of ways where you could reach your target audience who are eager to take action through targeting, looking to impact them with meaningful messaging, and then also looking to measure and optimize so you know what you're benchmarking against and how you can utilize that information to create more compelling video content moving forward. So let's start with reach. We obviously don't want to reach uninterested audiences. We want to reach those undecided audiences who are exploring the idea of going to college for the first time or going back to school. So a great way to do that is looking at users who have already engaged with your school already, but maybe haven't necessarily converted. So looking at remarketing tactics or customer match tactics. So with remarketing, looking at those users who have gotten to your website and maybe have been exploring but haven't taken that next step, or looking at customer match, actually uploading a targeted list of prospects and targeting them with specific messaging can be a great way to keep them engaged as they're moving through that decision journey. We can also use those list targeting to build similar audiences. So creating similar profiles based on what Google senses with those current students or with your alumni and targeting users who maybe just haven't found your school yet. And then we can also look at in-market audiences. So Google and other social channels have ways of monitoring your search behavior, monitoring your browsing behavior to see what you're engaging with, and determining maybe what you're in the market for. So maybe you're browsing a lot of content about schools or program rankings. Looking to target that audience specifically can get to those undecided but not uninterested audiences. So once you do reach those audiences, you want to make sure you're capturing their full attention. There's some different TrueView formats options as far as how we can reach those audiences. So looking at the first one, the TrueView in-stream. This can be great for grabbing your user's attention, but they do have the option to skip your ad if they're not interested. I think we know a lot of the Gen Z don't always want to watch ads. There's some that are open to it, but which is great about the TrueView in-stream ad is you're only paying when people actually watch the full ad. If they choose to skip, you basically get a free impression off of it, but it's a great way to just engage the audience that is interested. And the next is using TrueView in-display ads. So often we know that users aren't just watching one video, they're exploring on YouTube. So getting in front of them when they're looking at relevant content with this display ad. And again, what's nice about this is you actually only pay for someone when they click on your ad, not necessarily when just your ad is shown. So once you do grab that user's attention, how do we convert them? Google has a lot of different interactive options to really promote with your video content. So with those different interactions, there's different things like downloading an app. I think we're seeing more and more schools creating apps to promote engagement with prospects and current audiences, or current students, I should say. So looking to promote that throughout or at the end of your video. Driving action to your website obviously is a key metric that you want to be measuring. So driving users to learn more about your school, learn more about a specific program, maybe possibly register for an event. That can be great. Also looking to actually make a purchase. I do believe we have a few people on our webinar today who work within the bookstore or are in charge of maybe promoting paid events, looking to promote that as an end call to action. And then newly, Google has introduced end caps where they're a little bit more of an interactive end to a video where it's a call to action that is overlaid with the video, encouraging that user to take a next step from a specific video content. Looking beyond YouTube, there's also great ways to leverage video on social media at every point of the user's journey, from building awareness for your school or program to driving real intent. So first, starting with awareness, a lot of social and video capabilities allow you to target users based on their demographics. This is huge because we typically know what our ideal student looks like. We know their education background. If it's that traditional undergrad, we know that they're in high school. They might be coming from specific feeder schools, targeting users that way. For that older audience, because I know we do have some audiences here from graduate programs, looking to target them based on their career. So looking at job titles, industries that they work within. And then different social channels also have parent types of targeting. So we know with the Gen Z audience, parents still play a crucial factor in that decision-making process, so targeting parents with specific video content. Looking through interest categories as kind of that next step, we can target users who are involved in certain groups. Maybe they're following certain social media accounts they see as influencers. Either they're liking certain Facebook pages, following certain people on Instagram and Twitter. And then also looking at content interests. So maybe they're browsing similar schools, they're browsing program rankings, they're browsing professional development. We look at targeting users based on the relative content they're using to kind of determine what they're interested in. Then looking at lookalike audiences, similar to what we were talking about with YouTube, you can upload specific list of audiences, whether that's your prospective student list, your current students, or alumni, looking to leverage what we know about their search and browsing behaviors to find similar audiences who maybe not know of your institution yet. Looking at retargeting, again, looking at those users who have interacted with your website. Maybe it's overall, maybe they're looking at a specific program, maybe it's very intent-based. We want to reach those users who are viewing admissions information but haven't necessarily taken the next steps. We all know with the traditional undergrad, there's a lot of stealth users who all of a sudden they apply and we have no idea where they came from. So looking to get in front of those users who are browsing your website can be great. And then also looking to target your specific followers on the different channels. Lastly, looking at custom lists, so similar to retargeting, uploading those prospective student lists, and then also maybe capturing alumni. As we know, alumni is a super important audience to keep engaged after they graduate. So looking at how schools are leveraging video in a promotion type of way, we know that more and more schools are replacing or at least reallocating a portion of their media dollars from traditional to digital. So looking at this, we see more and more schools using video as their new view book. Here's two examples. New Mexico State is doing a really good video promotion campaign on YouTube as well as social. But from our advertising efforts, we've seen that 25% of users have been watching more than 50% of their YouTube video ads, with over a 15-second average watch per impression, meaning per impression that we're seeing, people are watching more than 15 seconds of our ad. Someone had asked the question, besides just video views, what are people measuring? A lot of times they are measuring how long users are watching videos. With Facebook, they count a view anything after 3 seconds, and we all know browsing on Facebook, videos autoplay. So sometimes that's not a good indicator of engagement. So looking at users who are watching maybe 50% or more of your video can be a great metric to benchmark against. Also looking at McMurray, they did a video campaign that really highlighted their programs on Facebook, targeted with a video instead of just a normal kind of standard ad with creative. And we saw an average cost per lead of around $70, which again, that benchmark is really specific to probably their program, but we did benchmark it against similar campaigns where we're just running static creative and saw almost a 20% lower cost per lead here. We also see that the view book is the new program overview. Wanted to highlight, as we know, graduate promotion is typically program specific. With Mississippi College, they did a variety of videos that talked about value as well as outcomes and competitive advantages of their program. We looked to promote this on social as well as YouTube, and we reported over almost a 40% view rate, with almost 25% of those impressions viewing more than 50% of their video. We also were averaging just about a 14-cent per view, so 30 seconds or more with YouTube on our advertising, which again is a great indicator because YouTube does give you that option to skip ads. We also are seeing schools use video as the new testimonial. So looking at this example for Missouri, showcasing outcomes and the diversity of their student body was super important, and is super important for an executive MBA program. But instead of just placing a headshot, leveraging some copy, we wanted to really showcase the students. So we were leveraging these assets both on their website as well as our landing page. And over the last 6 months, we've seen over a 10% increase on average time on their website on these specific pages. And we also saw an increase in our conversion rates on our landing page from about 5.5% to 10.9% in the last 2 months by showcasing a video testimonial rather than just static copy. We also think video is the new course highlight. So we all know that there's certain aspects of a school or a program that students find the most interesting. So what Winterland did, they're a global skills program, gap year program, that's 9 months where they travel the world. So of course, highlighting this, the student experiences, was super important for them recruiting ongoing cohorts for their program. We leveraged social media as well as YouTube to promote their video. They did a lot of video on their website, as well as looking at putting this on their landing page. How they produce this video is actually really cool. They have a videographer that's kind of following them around, and it's also a lot of student-produced videos just using their iPhones. But looking at Facebook and Instagram, we're averaging about 1 to 2% per video view. Again, keep in mind that's just the 3-second view that Facebook sets as their benchmark. But we also saw that almost 50% of users were watching more than 50% of their 54-second video, which I think goes a long way, because we know every generation, or as people get younger, their attention spans, I think, seem to decrease. So it's great to see those results. And then video we see as the new event recap. We all know that video and, or I should say, on-campus events are a great way to engage with prospects. We know if we can get them to campus, there's a lot higher chance of getting them to enroll. And then with current students, it helps keep them engaged. So what we pulled out 2 examples for NNU, which we spoke about earlier, but they're a small campus outside of Boise, and probably not a ton going on. So they look to promote their new student orientation week, where they have tons of events going on. They have a milk chugging contest they were talking about. Their president serves them ice cream. They watch videos or a movie out on the lawn, and they really captured that with really cool music that I think might have been local as well. And current students were very engaged with it. They said they've seen a lot of engagement with prospects with our digital marketing campaigns, which has been great. And then another example was McMurray. They highlighted their new student orientation, and to date we've tracked 19 event registrations at just around $2 per registration, but we're really targeting those prospects who, I should say, admitted students, to get them to come to register for courses. New and next, someone actually asked about Instagram story ads, and in my opinion, I love Instagram story compared to, I would say, Snapchat. We know that Instagram story kind of basically stole everything that Snapchat did, but what's great about Instagram is that you already have typically an audience, and it's very easy to follow people on the Instagram story section compared to Snapchat, where you have to manually add users. So as of April 2017, and I'm sure this has grown a ton, Facebook reported that over 200 million users are viewing Instagram stories every day. Advertising is a little newer. Obviously, the big advertisers have been taking advantage of it more. We have launched some more static creative and are looking to launch some video campaigns for our clients, but keep in mind that this is where your students are, so it's definitely an avenue to look at. YouTube also has a great campaign where it's called YouTube Director on Site. They're kind of serve 7 major metro areas, but their big promotion is let Google create a video for you for free if you spend $150 on YouTube, which is very minimal. It's a great strategy to kind of get initial video content going. We actually went through this process a few weeks ago with Columbia College Chicago, and how it worked is we met with someone from Google, picked out a template, and worked with them to develop a script. They came out to the Chicago campus, filmed for a few hours, and then we worked with them to kind of edit, and we're currently setting up our video campaign. So it's a great thing to take advantage of if you're in one of these major metro areas. We'll send a link out to this, but I do believe they're looking to expand beyond that. But something great to take advantage of if you are limited on resources for video. And we'll send out the example of the video as well.
And finally, another new next way that you can bring video into your mix is through a Google Jump camera. And so that's basically, just imagine a bunch of GoPros that are all strung together in a ring and are all filming at the same time and can be stitched together via the Google Jump software. I know many of you have the virtual campus tour and sort of some 3D and AR things, but this could be a cool way for some of your departments to apply for, to showcase your student research, especially with something like robotics or like some of your really cool labs or 3D visualizations, electroacoustic student compositions, many different ways to use something like the Google Jump camera, and their applications open pretty much every 2 months, I believe, to try to acquire one of these for your school. But yeah, when used in the right way, you know, it's not just because it's a cool 3D 360 sort of video production tool, but if you use it to kind of further your campus strategic visions or showcase some really great student research, it could be a really powerful tool for your institution as well. And finally, I guess with the conclusion of this webinar, I guess we can have Becky talk a little bit about the free resource that we will be giving to your digital native audience.
Awesome. So after the webinar, we will send out a follow-up email that has this report, some of the stats that I mentioned at the beginning of the webinar that have those really insightful and interesting information about that Gen Z and the people that you are targeting come from research in this report called It's Lit. And it's a Gen Z guide that Google just created. So look out for that and let us know if you have any questions. I'll let the Converge team take it away.
Yeah, so in addition to that, we'll be sending out the links that we featured as far as videos go, also some information about YouTube's Director on Site program. But we did want to open it up to questions. We have a few questions that we got throughout the presentation that we wanted to make sure we addressed initially, but feel free to submit a few more. We have a few minutes before we wrap up and can certainly answer some offline if needed. The first question we got was, what success metrics did USC used to measure dorm room campaign? Did it lead to an increase in applications, enrollment, or did it only generate video views? We didn't actually specifically work with them on this campaign, but from our experience, yes, you want to measure beyond video views, especially on social, because we know that the channels like Facebook have such a low threshold or benchmark as what they count as a view. You want to look at video duration, you want to look at social engagement. Are you getting interactions? Are we looking at, are you building a following? How's this benchmarking across your specific videos? That's a great way. And then also in regards to increasing applicants and enrollment, it a lot of times comes down to your tracking. And Melissa just corrected me. We actually do have some information on what we actually did see as a result in that, just from some industry research that we did.
So in addition to just doing the USC dorms video, it was more of a campaign that USC did holistically, which included going through their Twitter via the USC admissions and USC financial aid. But all of their social video efforts actually culminated in a 3.5% increase in applications in 2016. So, you know, take that as you will, but video had a very significant part in that.
Okay. We also got a comment or a question on any comment on utilizing Soapbox, the new free Chrome extension from Wistia, to record and edit videos quickly. Let's see if Melissa does a lot of editing, if she has any insights there.
Yeah, it's a really great tool if you don't have in-house videographers that are dedicated into story mining. They have really great tutorials in teaching you how to like stitch together a story, or if you're thinking about even doing webinars or different event presentations and you want to abbreviate them, as we mentioned earlier, into a tool, or abbreviate them into a video that you can quickly package and give to your audience. I think it's a very positive tool for that. They've also have some like free slide deck templates to create that can abbreviate some of their events there.
Another question we got, do you have any specific advice for how to capture quality audio if you're producing videos in-house?
Yes, so I would always recommend when doing one-on-one interviews, always go through a lavalier like wireless mic system. It's just like an easy way to make sure that the audio is very clear there, especially if you're having a lot of backpack journalists going around to different parts of campus. I've also used a lot of like shotgun mics, but they tend to capture a lot of like background noise. So as much as you can have more directional audio quality, the better.
And then another question, is Square video effective? I noticed scrolling through my Facebook feed, almost all the videos are square instead of the traditional widescreen look.
And I think it depends on what channel you are piping your video through. I think in social media, like square videos are totally appropriate, and fit well in a mobile responsive situation. But if you're doing like a full production, it's always good to do like HD sort of widescreen, especially if you're thinking about producing a high-res video for conferences or galas or fundraisers that you have for alumni.
Great. And then we'll end on one final question before Megan wraps us up. Someone asked, do you know if the director or the YouTube director goes on site in Montreal, Canada? I think it might just be US based, but we'll send out the link that gives really specific information on where it's available. And I do know on their website they are mentioning that they're looking to expand. So I think if you inquire, maybe there would be some options there. But I will turn it over to Megan to wrap things up. And then any other questions, we'll try to follow up personally afterwards.
Yeah, thank you so much, guys. I just want to give Melissa, Haley, and Becky a huge shout out. It's been a great presentation. We've covered a ton of content on video best practices for education. And as Haley mentioned, we'd be more than happy to answer your follow-up questions. So if we didn't get to cover it during this wrap-up, we want to be mindful of your time. So just make sure you tweet us at Converge.org with the hashtag ConvergePresents, or you can also email us at events@convergeconsulting.org for more offline questions about video. Make sure you connect with the fabulous presenters on LinkedIn too. Haley, Becky, and Melissa would love to hear from you guys if you have additional questions on video ad campaigns and storytelling. And with that, that's a wrap for this webinar. Thank you guys for joining us, and make sure you keep an eye out on our website for more information on our next session. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.